Hello and welcome back to the ocean. It is great to see you here. In this episode we are diving the Coromandel Peninsula. First part of the video being a weekend mission to the very northern area. Getting to the very top of the Coromandel from Auckland will likely take you between 5 and 6 hours. Kahawai are a popular target species in the Coromandel. They're great tasting and can be found in many places. This was a school hanging about in just very shallow water, shooting almost from the surface. Kahawai are always able to put up an amazing fight. They're incredibly strong fish for their size. Important to put a good shot in, otherwise you can lose them. I've lost many kahawai, more than most other fish. The first day went pretty slow to be honest, so the next morning we went for a big walk, about an hour hike around the coast to get to some really isolated spots. This journey I was joined by Ethan and Jake. They decided to both go fishing this day, but I wanted to get in for another dive, using Ethan's rickety old pole spear. Upon jumping into this little lagoon here, I managed to find an octopus. Octopus are always an interesting thing to come across, and if you like them, I've got another one later on in the video, so stay tuned. This trip happened almost 2 years ago, and was my first time properly using a pole spear. It's what led to me ultimately becoming very interested in this form of spearfishing. Pole spearfishing is straight up just a lot harder than spearfishing with a regular spear gun. You got to be a lot closer and you just don't have the power or range that you usually do. This next clip represents the lowest point in my pole spearing ability. It's honestly shocking. I felt so bad after this. First up, miss. Gonna reload again, wait for this fish to come in, but this pole spear is incredibly difficult to hold. It doesn't have any grip on the shaft, straight metal. Once again, lining up, fire, and another miss. I'm gonna reload again. I don't know how this fish is so keen to stick around. Once again, gonna put that spear out, wait for it to come by. At this point it actually slips out of my hand. I wasn't even trying to fire it then. Fish comes back around one more time and I managed to actually hit it surprisingly. But it doesn't stay on for very long. Shocking stuff. To say I had little faith in that pole spear is an understatement. So when shortly after this group of kings approached me, I didn't even bother trying to line up for a shot. I'm more interested in just watching them. These were big fish. You know they're big kingfish when you feel like you're getting checked out. It's not you looking at them, it's them looking at you when they're big fish. You gotta be sensible when you're spearfishing and not do anything stupid. If I were to shoot one of these fish, I would just put myself in danger and end up injuring the fish. There's almost no chance I'd be able to actually land one of these on this pole spear. With the size of the fish and the equipment I'm using, I just think I'm not even going to bother. Let the boys on the rocks know.
Yo, there's about 20 kingfish here. Kingfish. Yeah. Fucking big.
Alright, now we're back down the Coromandel's east coast using a spear gun. Equipment that at this stage in my diving I'm a lot more comfortable with using. You often find eagle rays sunning themselves up in the shallows, however not usually on top of one another. I don't know if this is some mating behaviour or what, but it's pretty weird. As promised, here is some more octopus footage. I originally saw this one from the surface, going down and plan on sizing it up to see if it's worth eating or if it's too big to really be bothered dealing with. When I get this thing off the rocks, I see it's a lot bigger than I had actually initially anticipated. I plan on getting to the surface, releasing it, but the octopus actually has other ideas. It goes from my arm around my right hand side and climbs onto my back. Spent most of the time around the back of my neck, back of my head area, and was actually very difficult to get off. This next bit of the footage is sped up, but it was actually on me for quite some time before I was able to unwrap those tentacles from around me and get the monster off. Octopuses are incredibly strong and hard to grab. They're both very muscular and very slimy. Think of them as an eel. Have you ever tried grabbing an eel? It's like that, except 8 of them. Octopi are very tasty, but I don't bother killing them if they're large, because they're simply too strong. There's so much effort to actually prepare to eat, and it's sad killing such a big beautiful animal. If I'm gonna kill an octopus, it's gonna be a small one. When I'm swimming along the surface and see a school of fish that I want to shoot, my first instinct is often just to drop straight down to the bottom, because I know from the bottom the fish are going to present me with better shots. They're going to come in closer and they're going to be at my level, so I'm shooting at their broadside as opposed to top down at them from the surface. When you're shooting fish out of a group, you shouldn't be too picky. It can be easy to just stay there for ages trying to pick the fish that's slightly larger, but ultimately it's not worth it. You line up on the fish that presents you with the best shot. Most of them are going to be within 10-15% size difference of one another. It's rare that you're going to find fish of vastly different sizes in a school together. After shooting fish, I always bleed them to ensure top eating quality. This is especially important with kahawai as they have a lot of blood for the size of the fish. When you bleed fish, you increase the odds of coming across sharks, so it's important to have a float boat to keep your fish out of the water and safe. I personally find that butterfish like to hang out in areas where there is swell and kelp, so when I'm hunting them I often get right up into the shallows where the wash is and work from there. First I start by scanning around red moki porori in this area, not my target species. To the right of me I see this bommy. I'm going to head over it and have a look over the other side to see if there's any target species around. Hopefully butterfish, which is what I'm after on this dive. In the distance I managed to see one. There is a lot of swell, making it quite hard to line up, so you need to time it between sets when you're actually going to push out. Between the waves here I managed to push out and put a really good shot into this butterfish, actually stoning it. Stoning a fish is when your shaft goes directly into the brain, killing it instantly. A stone shot is not a spine shot, where the fish is still alive. A stone shot is always the best possible outcome because it ensures no pain or suffering to the fish. Koheru are a fish that are often found far out to sea on offshore islands and in deep water. However, they can occasionally be found up in the shallows, often when they're injured, resting up, trying to heal and recover before returning back out into the open ocean. One of the many beauties of spearfishing is that you never know what you're going to encounter. Every time you go out is a new adventure, a new mystery, and a new opportunity. It's never the same. Every time you go out on the ocean, it's going to be something different. In the distance, I managed to see this white shape in the mid-water. I couldn't tell exactly what it was until I eventually keyed into the fact that it was a koheru that had been injured. When it swims towards me, I managed to push out and put a good shot into it. These fish have incredibly soft flesh, so putting a good shot in is essential or you're going to lose them. These fish, koheru, I probably have the lowest success rate in landing. I still land most of them, but I've had many tear out over the years. The powerful fighting ability combined with soft flesh means that if you hit these fish off center, there's a good chance they're going to get off. Here's a tip when dealing with fish. Most fish, when they're dead, will open their mouths. If the fish has its mouth closed still and won't open it, the fish is alive. Thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. This episode's sustainability message is spread your impact across multiple areas.